I'm going to record this. Welcome to Spiral Up Mastermind. I'm going to begin by just welcoming everyone. And I want an update from everyone. And I know, Jolene, you had something to share quick. What is it?
Actually, I'll just use that as my update and my wins. So I was just going to say, I don't know that Kat and I have been geeking out on the grief stuff, but it's been, whoa, so wins. Catalina called me on some shit. And I took it to heart. And actually, I'll show you what just as we're talking, he called me on something and without explanation, it doesn't matter. I took some time and made me envelopes for life in general. And then with her witnessing me and just being with me, discovered a huge piece of grief. So with that, it's started a new turn, and I have to admit, scary but exciting, and all those emotions that I'm wanting to feel and coming alive. So yay.
Oh, I honor you for your courage. That's a big work. That's big work. Yeah. And Kelsey, welcome. Yay, we're all here. So I wanted to share this vision because this is exactly what I want for this. I had this vision back in November of women coming together and just going like, this is me. Like, this is what's on my heart. This is what I'm struggling with. This is what I want more than anything. This is where I need support. This is what I like, what I love about life. And this is what I hate about life right now, and that's what I want for this group. I want it to be, yes, we're learning together and we're growing together, and it's a witnessing of each other. And I think this grief recovery process is kind of the perfect way to start in this. It's going, this is what I've lost. This is what I'm mourning. This is what I want more than anything, and I haven't gotten, right? And so that's the vision. That's what I want. And I'm going to be bringing in tools to like, it's really when something comes up, we're like, oh yeah, I'm going into a triggered state all the time. Okay, let's learn heart-centered breathing. So let's go into heart math, or that's like, I'm in a triggered state right now. Okay, let's go into some tapping, and we can all learn from each other in our struggles, but also from our wins, right? And so at the beginning of each session, I want you to share your wins. I want you to come with at least 3 and maybe share the biggest one if we don't have time for all of them. But I want you to be concise, and I want you to have them written out. Like, I'm going to share these 3 wins with the group. And that actually gives your brain something to focus on in the week so that you are focusing on what's going right, because what is going right, what we focus on, we get more of, right? And so that's what we're going to start with. Every week, we're going to start with our wins, and then we get to go into the hard stuff if that's where we're going to go that week. Maybe we're going to go just stay on the let's keep celebrating, let's keep dreaming, let's keep figuring out how to get there. But the vision is that we start there, and then we can go wherever we need to go at that time. And I do have a certain structure for what we are going to make sure that we get through as far as material, because this is all about growth and connection and creating a life that we love, spiraling up into a life that we love, right? So how does that sound? Awesome. So who wants to start with your win? Let's celebrate each other. I feel like Brooke, you're ready to go. You're not on mute. So you can
Oh, that's funny. I feel like I'm not ready to go, actually. Today I've been in a bit of a quagmire, all the things that I haven't done. So let me shift. Oh, let's see. So this week, oh, okay. So this week I have contacted and shown our apartment to 3 people. We have found 3 people for our Airbnb/rentals that we're going to be renting when we go on sabbatical, and we sold our van. So we now have the money out of our van to be able to work with on the Airbnb. I mean, on our sabbatical, which is fantastic. And we've got rentals with income coming in. So those 2 major financial check boxes are done. And then third thing, we had a Taylor Swift birthday party for my 15th, she just turned 15, Hannah. She had a joint birthday party with a friend, and it was all Taylor Swift themed. They bought all the decorations. It was epic. Hannah sang, they watched the Eras tour, and they all sang, and it was the happiest night I've had since the women's retreat. It was just like, oh my gosh, all these cute girls all together. And my other 2 daughters got to invite a friend, so we were all together. And my husband actually totally stayed in the other room, but it was really, really fun. So it was a success because that really meant a lot to my daughter Hannah.
Oh, big wins. Yay, Brooke.
Thank you. Oh, there are things to celebrate. Okay.
There's so many things to celebrate. And does everyone know that Brooke's going to Chile for a year? Like they're going for sabbatical. So it's like a big thing that Brooke's going through, getting ramped up for creating.
Yeah, 9 weeks. We'll leave middle of June. So I was showing the girls yesterday, like we have this many more weeks to get all things done. So I had a little bit of a spaz out moment, but I think, it's bit by bit. And if we have a plan, we can get it done. So yeah, it's a big thing. It's a big thing.
And who relates to, I haven't done everything that I need to do, like, right? So like, I hear that in what's going on for you, and I definitely relate, and that's a very human experience. So
thank you, Paige.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who wants to go next?
Boop.
Catalina.
Boop. So one, I promised Jolene that I would read the book and then meet with her, and we did on Sunday. And even though I didn't want to, and I was confronted and I was conflicted, and then my usual way of being is just like pretend I forgot. That's my favorite, pretend I forgot. Even though, my whole community knows that I have structures like nobody else, so they know I'm lying. But I did it anyway and recognized that I wanted to lie, and I didn't lie about reading the book. So, Julian, you think I have it. We're on the same page. So we did the homework, and we had this incredible conversation on Sunday night that was just magical. It was heartfelt. It was deep. It was fun. It was all of that. So that was great. And then I want to share my thesis, because I finished my thesis.
Whoa.
Okay. Not the same thesis you guys think of. It's my annual financial thesis. So here it is. Okay, 2023 tax organizer. So exciting.
Oh my gosh.
Is 334, I can't see it. Wait, here, let's go. 334 pages. So
you're a genius.
I do this all year long. Then at tax time, I get down to the 334 pages, which then goes into 20 pages in a summary, which then goes to the CPA, and they basically generate 2 numbers, the IRS and the state. So that's my big thing. This takes me almost 3 months to do every year, and I call it my thesis because it's like,
right? It's as much work as that's amazing. Congratulations.
class. Okay, there's only a class of one, but I still graduated first in my class.
First
So
in the class. We're giving you a gold star, A's all around. Way to go.
Yay.
Awesome. Thank
and
you.
actually April 9th. So while I'm not in March anymore, which was my intention, it's not April 15th.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
I'm hitting the midnight on April 15th. So kudos to you. I am definitely like, I'll be submitting like 2 minutes before.
Paige,
I need you in my life is what I'm saying.
Paige, before the next person goes, can I just mention 2 things? I love this group of women. This is so fun. I'm going to look forward to this every single week. I'm so excited to be connected with you each this week, this next 6 months. And I have a group meeting that is today at 12:30. So I'll be leaving a little bit early. I wanted to just be in communication about that so that you don't think I'm just ditching out for whatever reason. And I'll look forward to listening to the recording.
Oh, thanks for letting us know. Yeah, intuitively, I knew you were supposed to go first. So. Okay, Kelsey, you're next.
I also am so excited, ladies. I love each of you so much. Okay, so my first win had to do with the energetics of my life. I have learned a lot about, I don't know if learned is the right word, but I've been really validated by the universe in understanding myself even further and deeper by my natal chart.
Oh, yeah.
And in relation to how the eclipse has affected me and all the ways that the universe has been talking to me. like you can't make it up. It's wild. And I've gotten really clear that I am transitioning my podcast, The Reclamation, into Malia's going to host it, and we're going to collaborate and do like discussions, but she's going to run it, like the majority of it. And I'm creating my own podcast, possibly called The Kelsey Hinton Show. And I just have had like a trillion signs that this would be really great for me and healing a lot of my like soul wound of self-expression, just being really afraid to tell my story and who I am. And it's been a good week. So that was kind of multiple wins in one. Also, I guess just to add a fun little thing, you guys can see what me and my kids are doing. I can't homeschool my kids right now, but I still am doing lots of learning things at home in and around when they come back from school. And we are growing avocado tree. And so we're watching them, and this one is growing like a little thing on the top, and it's just so much fun. I love this season to start, planting seeds, and I'm just really wanting a garden someday. So, and the third thing, my husband and I are really getting the flow of our business that we bought on March 1st. That is my father-in-law's. I've just been really grateful because a lot of it was truly like handed to us. So I'm grateful for my gifts because I come from marketing, I come from improving systems, I come from all that. So I'm also getting more involved in the community with that is just like filling my heart in ways. Paige, the session that you and I did last week, seriously, like blew up my life for a week. I was like, I drew a rose on my arm. I'm considering getting a tattoo of the symbol of the part of myself that I like reclaimed and in a healthy, beautiful partnership with again. And after that, literally everything has been about hearts, my heart, and roses, like blue rose. Just like been nuts. Everything from that session is like, it's been all these little breadcrumbs. The universe is like, keep following me. I'm showing you the way.
So beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love doing sessions with you. Your brain is so amazing. Oh, that's so great. Kelsey, so many wins. Woohoo! Way to go. I love to see how fast you move through life. Holy moly. Okay, Laura, let's hear from you. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm kind of in a triggered state right now. So you mentioned just being honest about where we're at, and that's where I'm at. So I do have wins, which is great. I was last week preparing to close 2 properties on Friday, and that all went really well. My clients sold their house and bought a new house, and it was great. It was a challenging transaction when I was there on the retreat, was when one of the deals fell through, and got it back under contract, and it's all done now. So that's exciting. And then I also on Saturday sponsored a yard sale for my neighborhood. And we had about 20 homes that participated, and all but one seemed to be really happy with everything. But in the end, the one was like, oh, thank you, I enjoyed it. So but organized it all, advertised it all, actually sold in it myself. So it was insane, but it was good.
Amazing.
And then I was trying to think of like, what are my wins? And I was like, oh yeah, I closed properties. And then even today, like I have been in this like triggered state. Nothing has been going according to plan, and I just keep having to reschedule everything, which I also have to like leave right on the dot today to get to a photo shoot for another listing. But I called on an agent friend for help, and I just feel like that's a win, just to realize that I needed, to bounce some ideas off of someone, and did that. So I think that's something I really need a lot of right now, is some leverage and an ally. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the real estate industry. And so it's just triggering me. And all the work I have to do is triggering me, just getting it done.
So again, like having all the things we haven't done, and all the things we have to do, and all the things, like I think that's a theme. We should look at where like Pluto is or something, like I'm like, how are the stars aligned? Because we're all in this state of like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do and I can't do it. And there's like, so that's interesting. But how do you feel now that you've spoken into your wins? Do you feel a little bit better?
Yes. Yes. And I have felt really, really good until like a few hours ago. So I'm trying to figure out like where, what was it that triggered me? I have felt like, proud of myself for, the transactions, and then the yard sale, like getting through that. It was really exhausting. So I do feel good celebrating those wins, but
well, amazing. Like seriously, like that's incredible that you did that. Like all of us are just like, well, that is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Like community building and like just a really neat thing that you did. And then closing 2 homes is amazing in 1 week. Way to go.
Yeah.
You're incredible. We're all like this, like star eye emojis, okay?
Well, I'm so grateful for that. Yeah. I have one to list this week and one to list next week. And so I just realized I have to work all day Sunday. And my daughter last weekend, I wasn't really home, right? She went to stay with my family, and she was like, mommy back, miss you, mommy. And I was like, oh. And so now I'm feeling that again, like that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do some stuff. I'm going to have Amanda share, and then we'll do a little bit of heart breathing, and then we're going to get into the grief. So Amanda.
Well, I don't know if I can split it up into like 3, but I've had this major shift, and I just need to get this out of my brain before I start with that. I went to Helen at the first retreat, and I said, I am so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do with myself. Like, I just can't focus. I'm just like, all the time. And she's like, what is that, Amanda? You're making overwhelmed is made up. And I'm like, what? What? And she's like, no, you can only do what you can do at the time that you're doing it. So don't be, it's just made up. And I'm like, so whenever I tell myself that, I'm like, oh, that's made up. I'm just doing this right now. And I just like really slow down. And that's really been a super help for me. So, yeah, so I'm so excited about this too. I really need this. I do so much better when I'm working on something for myself because I get so just lost in the shuffle of the day to day. And when I'm doing stuff like this, it just really helps center me and makes me make that, like take that time out that I have a hard time doing if I wasn't otherwise. So my shift, I was like so stuck on the right wrong. So I was trying to move from like, like just the, recognize, release and replace. And I was just like getting like hitting a roadblock like every time I'd be like, oh, that's wrong. Oh, I know I don't want to be right wrong energy. I want to, oh, that's wrong, and I was just like driving myself bonkers, like truly mad, and all of a sudden, I don't know what happened this last week, but I am just like recognizing where I'm fear-based, which is a lot more than I thought I was, really. But instead of like hitting that wall, I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna be grateful. Like, for instance, like, why am I doing the dishes right now? Because I'm afraid I'm not gonna have time to do it later. Why am I feeding my kids? Because I'm afraid they're gonna starve. Like, not because I want to and I love to, but I'm just like, "Rrr." And so I was like, wow, that's so interesting. I just drop into I'm so grateful I have this beautiful house to cook for them into, and I just fill my brain with all these gratitude thoughts, and that's been just like really bringing me to this place of like comfort. And I went from feeling like I need to explain people to the situation, the choices I've been making lately, and then I'm like, no, this is just me. This is who I am. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm happy. I'm comfortable. My skin, it feels good on me. And so I'm just really in this like super comfy spot right now, and I'm really really happy about that. So
I love how you went through the process of like you recognize, because what you were at the beginning, it's you're focusing on, I don't want to be in right wrong energy. So what you focus on, you get more of. You're just going to get more right wrong energy, right? But then you recognize it and you let it go, and then you replaced it with gratitude. And now your focus is on gratitude rather than I don't want to be in right wrong energy. And the whole experience is shifted, right? So it's another example of that process of transformation, because you are so focused on the recognition that we can get stuck in that place of like, I'm not wrong, right, wrong energy, right? And we're so focused on there, we're not actually releasing it and moving on to where we want to be, right? So I love that example and how you're doing it. You're doing it. So great.
I was stuck there forever too. And I'm like, what do I need to do to get to the next? And then focusing on that wasn't bringing me any solutions. And honestly, I don't even know like when, when or what, like I can't pinpoint like when it happened. It was just like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. This is wonderful.
I just have a question. Was it after our session? It was
Yes.
like,
yes,
we did do a session last week. It
you're
made
magic.
maybe that.
I don't think I ever told you, Paige, that after our session at the retreat, I was like, I could just go home. I'm happy. I'm like so good. We've been there for like 2 hours,
Yeah, that's true. We do at the beginning. You're like, okay, mission accomplished. So good though. Yeah, it's really getting clear on what you're focusing on, right? Like, are you focused on the overwhelm, or are you focused on how you want to release that overwhelm, what you want to step into? Just keep asking yourself that. Are you focused on the grief, or are you focused on the freedom from the grief that you want to get to? Right? Because we can focus and we can get really deep into all of this. And it's not about spiritual bypassing and going like, I just don't feel that, I'm going to just move on. But it's like using the process to go, got the message, recognize, okay, I got this. And then like overwhelm is a really great invitation to just step into presence, which is what we all want to be in more, right? So all of these things are invitations. Okay, Jolene, I know that you went at the beginning, but I want to give you another chance to share if there's anything else you wanted to add. Is there?
No, I think that was all in one, in my gratitude, and actually I will. Grateful for all of you guys. Thank you.
Oh, I love you so much. So glad you're here. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to have you, we're going to just go through, and we're going to go through several of these, but there's something called heart math, which I know most of you know something about, but heart math is a really powerful tool, super, super simple. I don't know a simpler tool, but they've done like 50 years of research on it about how to regulate the heart and mind so that you can lower stress, lower blood pressure, like have all these health, they just have all the science behind it, which is really cool. But it is a great way to get into, like, get out of fight or flight. And it's a cool thing that you can do even if you're in a meeting or if you're with your kids and they're just like blowing up your brain, you know? It's a nice thing to do when you're hitting those. So I'm going to just go through, it's like a 2-minute process, but we're going to go through it a few, like during the course, because I think it's a really cool thing to have in your toolbox. And especially during the time that you're going through the grief recovery process, because there is an element of bringing stuff up. And if it's emotionally triggering, if you can just drop back down into your heart, you can keep moving forward rather than getting stuck and in avoidance or whatever else that comes up in this process. So just take a nice deep breath and we'll go into it. Like I said, it's just a couple minutes. And begin to focus your attention on your heart area. And imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or your chest area. And you'll notice that your breathing becomes a little slower. Maybe it goes deeper as you release your belly. And allow that breath to go all the way down into your torso. And then expanding your heart. I want you to find a rhythm of about 5 counts in and about 6 counts out. As you find that rhythm, notice that the energy comes out of your mind and just into your heart as all of your focus is there on your chest area. And now we're going to activate feelings of kindness, appreciation, gratitude. Maybe even recalling a time when you felt really connected or loved. And allow that feeling to just soak into your heart. As you activate those feelings in your heart, just breathe in appreciation for something. And allow your vibration to rise. And now we're going to begin to radiate that feeling of connection, of kindness, love, and radiate it out from your heart, raising the vibration of your entire being, and even raising the vibration of this space that we're sharing here on Zoom, maybe the space of your home, and the energy field environment that surrounds you. And taking another nice deep breath. Noticing how you feel. Putting a smile on your face and opening your eyes. So the process is just you heart-centered breathing, activating the feeling that you want, and then radiating it out from your heart. So that's really, it's that simple. I like to find that rhythm of 5 or 6 counts. If I'm feeling anxious, I do a longer exhale. If I'm feeling depressed, I take a longer inhale. Does that make sense? When we're depressed, we're more Eeyore breathing. And when we're anxious, we're right. So we're gonna balance it out a little bit when we're doing the breathing. But you breathe into your heart, you activate the feeling you want, and so the concept is we actually get to choose how we feel. When I'm feeling angry, I can choose, you know what? I'm going to choose forgiveness, and I'm going to breathe forgiveness into my heart right now. Because all forgiveness is self-forgiveness, and forgiveness is the secret to happiness. So I may as well choose that right now, right? And like in the moment, we can get into that. And then how much easier is it going to be to deal with the anger, or to look at the anger and to recognize what caused it and what the invitation is and what the gift is. So we can regulate our emotions in this way. And so play around with it. It's really cool. Any questions about it? Pretty straightforward, right? It's like little children can do this very, very easily. Okay, so with the grief recovery, the thing that I wanted to go through is like the 5 or 6 myths. I don't even know how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in the Grief Recovery Handbook, we learn about these 6 different myths. And I think it's really important to go through these before we get into it, because even as you choose what you're going to do the work around, you can see how you may actually have grief, and you may just be going, oh, it was a long time ago, or, oh, I dealt with that on my own, or, you know, oh, I can be strong enough. I don't have to actually, like, that's not a big deal for me, even though it's really hard for other people, right? So we have these things where we kind of talk ourselves out of the grief, and then we still have the heaviness. So whether you feel like, I know Jolene shared how she feels like she's in the quicksand with weights on her ankles, right? Like I've been there in that stage of grief. I've also been in the stage where I'm just like, I don't know why, I just feel cloudy, and I'm not really sure what it is, or I feel like there's something pulling me back. So no matter what, there's probably for all of us some level of heaviness that we could let go of, and we could feel lighter on our feet and a little more joy and a little easier. So here are the six different ways. The one is that time heals all wounds. This is actually a myth. It doesn't. People can have a pet die and talk about it 30 years ago and start crying, right? Someone can get divorced, and 40 years later, they're still in the complete story of divorce, right? So it suggests that if we just simply wait, and eventually the grief will go away. And healing actually takes action. And so we need to actually deal with the pain and the loss, and in order to get through it. The second one is grief, grieving alone, like go and deal with it, and go and grieve alone, right? Grief from the beginning of time has been done in groups, in tribe, in just with other people, and it's because that's what actually works for the human spirit. And when we think that if we can just like that, it's a sign of weakness, or it's going to be a burden to someone else if I talk to them about how I'm struggling, that's a myth, right? So how much has like Jolene reaching out to Catalina and saying, hey, like, has that been a burden for you? Well, if it was, don't say, just kidding. But like, it's actually what a gift, right? Because it's helping you face what's going on in your life and your own burden and your own grief and whatever there is, right? When we actually are brave enough, like Laura today reached out for a lifeline. She was like, that's a win, to reach out and say, hey, I need support, right? And we do need this. And it's a brave thing to reach out, but it is actually how healing requires us reaching out and being in tribe. So seeking support is brave and it's needed. And that's why we're doing this as a group. The next one is that you just have to be strong for others. So a lot of times when we lose someone or something, whether it's divorce and I needed to be strong for my kids, or whether it's the death of a loved one and we have to be strong for others. But when we suppress our feelings in order to support the people around us, we actually prevent them from processing their grief fully. And so anyone have any comments about those three? Because I'm kind of flying through them, but I want time heals all wounds, grieve alone, or be strong for others. Those three myths. Any comments about that? Yeah, Jolene.
I just have to share in getting the book. If you guys haven't read it, it was so funny because I'll just do this by myself. That's what I've been taught. And it asks you, why are you doing this by yourself? And it was like, oh. So it was like, and me and Catalina talked about this. She's like, she was the same. So it was, the book pokes you at doing it alone, because that's a taught behavior. So yeah, it took a lot in myself to reach out, but I'm grateful that I did.
I love that. Thank you for that example, because it is seriously, it's like terrifying to ask for help, especially around something that's so vulnerable. Of like, this is where we are in the kind of the depths of the yucky part of being human, of like, oh, this is all my fears. These are all like, there's a lot that comes up in grief, and it takes a lot of courage. So yeah, a lot of vulnerability, but it is the way through. And so when you start to see, oh my gosh, there's a way out of this and there's a way through, and I could be free of this, then you actually become really brave, because you're like, I really don't want to be in here anymore. So I'm going to actually do whatever I need to do in order to get through it. So I hope you can see that as well. Amanda, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, well, I guess I have kind of two separate questions. The first one on number 2, the grieving alone thing. I guess I know I have stuff that I need to work on, obviously. I mean, we all could benefit, but I definitely know there are a few things that I haven't like fully processed. And my question is, I guess I've gotten to this place in my life where I'm intentionally focusing on positive things in order to just have a more positive experience in my life. And so how do you like step out of that and into the grieving process, and then like step back into cooking dinner? I don't know. I don't really know how to balance that.
Yeah, great question. And that actually brings us to the next point, which is this myth that you just shouldn't feel that, right? And so when we say, well, just don't feel what you're feeling, right? We do that not to each other as much as just to ourselves, right? Like, oh, that thought came in, boom, like, I don't want to look at that because I just need to make dinner, right? And, oh, like that made me super sad. Oh, I just want to be happy. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about like spiritual bypassing. It's just not actually looking at, and it takes courage to look at stuff, but actually it's the only way through, right? So if we can take the time and go, okay, boom, I'm looking at it, then just like you said, Helen said, is like, you can only do one thing at a time. You don't need to be overwhelmed with the grief recovery process, because we're actually taking action on it, and we're getting together each week, and you're going to sit down and do 1 hour of writing out your chart this week. And then the rest of the time, you don't have to be ruminating or thinking about it. Like, you just, oh, that comes, either I'm going to talk to them about that on the call, or I'm going to write that onto my chart, or I'm going to let that go right now. Right. But it's more of a proactive approach than, oh, just don't look at it, and I'm just going to go do this, and I'm not going to do, right? Like, that's what we're talking about when someone's grieving something. Like, it was cute. This is the perfect example. My little 3-year-old, my little 5-year-old niece was crying when my grandma and grandpa left. I mean, my mom and dad left their house. And he goes, Maya, just don't think about them. Just don't think about them. And it was like his answer was, just don't think about them, because then you won't have to be sad, right? Like, and we think that that's the answer to grief. Like, just don't think about the person that you loved and lost, and don't feel bad. And so acknowledging and expressing all those feelings are actually what's going to set you free and resolve it, rather than keep pressing it down. Because when we press it down and push it and just push it away, it either ends up with us exploding or us getting sick, right? I don't know of two other when we repress stuff, it has to come up, right? So it's either going to come up in some sort of illness, or mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever, or it's going to come up in just an explosion, and maybe both. But any comments on that? Great question though, Amanda. Really good comment.
I loved what you said, Paige. I think of principle-based thought and what Paige helped me work through when I was going through my divorce, of you feel it coming up, right? Like, as you're needing to cook a dinner, but then like, okay, I do need to be there for you, Kelsey. I feel this coming up now, but we're gonna make dinner, and then I'm gonna, after I put the girls to bed, that's a good time, and I'm gonna put my timer on my phone, and I'm gonna bawl my eyes out. Like, that's what Paige advised me on, and it changed my life so much. So
I
Yeah.
love, can I ask one more question? So I love that, Kelsey. Would that be an example of, because you're saying if you suppress your own feelings to support other people, then you're keeping them from healing. So if you're, I guess maybe I'm just like trying to break it down too hard. Like, if you do something like Kelsey's saying she's doing, and just saying, okay, I see you, I'll deal with you at this specific time, that's not necessarily suppressing, that's just kind of organizing so that you can manage,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Totally. Yeah. It's just using your mind as a tool, rather than thinking, I thought that, so I have to follow that track all the way down the rabbit hole, or I have to cut it off and I never want to think about it again because I don't want to feel those feelings, right? It's being like Catalina and having structure having in your brain, like, how cool that we can actually go, like, there's something to do with these things. So yeah, really great questions, Catalina.
So I call it the laundry list. So, if I'm cooking and I realize that, I've run out of sage, I don't stop everything right there to go get sage. I go, oh, I need to put sage on my grocery list. And then the next time I go, I need to get it and put it in the pantry. Well, I do the same thing with grief. I go, it pops up when it pops up, and I go, oh, I didn't actually know that was in there until that moment. And then it pops up, and then I go, oh, I put that on my list as that's the next thing to do.
Oh, I love that.
It's just a grocery list. It's like, none of it can be dealt with in the moment because we live.
Yeah.
We
I
live.
want to teach a class. So at some point in this mastermind, I'm going to teach about like expanding time.
Yeah.
This is part of it, is like, it's being right here in the present moment, but you can't do that if you don't have the organization and structure around your time so that you can be totally present. but it's like you can expand time. Like you can, I don't know. Anyway, we'll go into that sometime, but that is like a really cool, it's a really cool thing to geek out on and learn and practice, because it sure makes life a lot more fun. So the next thing is that you can just replace the loss. So you see people that say, oh, just get a new puppy, right? When the dog dies. I see a lot of people that get divorced, and half of people that get divorced are married again within 1 year. Half the people within 12 months, they're remarried. Like, it's amazing. So just replacing the loss, just move on. Immediately they go into the dating scene and they find someone else, right? Immediately we do this all the time, and there is a time period that we need to grieve, and it's essential before we move on, or we just don't deal with it and then we're stuck in the grief, right? The final thing is just keep busy. And this is what we are really good at. I see Kelsey like this, Amanda like, oh, like, yes. This is like the distraction mechanism. Like, I call it productive procrastination. It's so good. I'm so good at it. Like, I am so busy doing things that don't matter at all, while I avoid the things that I actually have to do. Right?
Right. It's like using a laundry list to avoid the other laundry list.
Yeah, it's not prioritizing the laundry list. Yeah. So we are really good at that. You guys know it, but it just delays the healing process. It's a procrastination method, but dealing with it directly is a lot more effective than avoiding it. And again, like, I'm doing this at the beginning of the class, let's just bust through it, right? Let's not go through this for the next 6 months, let alone 6 years. Let's just look at it head on and move through it, do the work. And so here's the homework. And this is kind of the first process. First of all, just choosing, and before we get off the call, we have 10 minutes. So choosing the one thing that you're going to focus on. So there's a lot of things, like, Jolene, what were those envelopes that were on your counter? I was curious about that. On your desk.
Cataline laughing at me. And it's so amazing. I just have to share, wow, because all of this is coming together. Like, Amanda, when you say, well, I'll think about that later. What I have to share is how it comes with pain, physical pain, sickness, and no emotions. So what that has to do with is, we were talking about things that I've been doing, and I'm like, I do my budget. And she's like, you don't do a budget. And I'm like, yes, I do. Every dollar has a place every single month. And she's like, but there's no life in that. There's no life in that. So what that is she called me on it. So I sat down and made, I think there's 30 envelopes over there now. I added 2 more, Catalina, of budget items that, whether they're dreams or something I can put in, but I have them and I can keep putting money in them. And so it's expanded versus just this narrow window of everything that I have to be responsible for. And as I realize this, it's tied to the grief. It's tied to the grief that's just like strangled what I'm doing. And I'm focused on just getting by and getting through.
Wow, that's so cool. How beautiful. I love it. Hey, that's a good process to do as a mastermind. I'll do that. That's so cool. Okay, so let's just look, and does everyone kind of know, I'm going to just throw these out there just because, for the record and for the recording, but it can be around death of a loved one. It can be around divorce or an end of a relationship. It can be health related, like loss of a certain ability to do something, or a terminal illness or something like that. It can be a job loss, a career change. It can be moving from a home even, or changing your family dynamics in some way. It can be loss of financial security. It could be a loss of safety after trauma, right? You could, your viewpoint, worldview could shift, and it could be a loss of that innocence, or it could be a loss of a religious affiliation, right? It could be a loss of a pet, identity change, miscarriage, or infertility, those kind of things. So there's a lot of things that we can do it around. But when you hear that, what's something that you're like, oh yeah, that's something that I feel the heaviness of it, and I want to release it. And so if you do know what you're going to do it around, then could you share, just so that we can have some great, Laura?
I have to jump off the call a few minutes early, but one of my things that came up was maybe even something that didn't happen. So, or like for me, I think, I don't know if this is the one thing, but for me, I've never been married. I've never had that type of relationship. And sometimes I feel like that affects other parts of my life. I mean, I think the reason I have so much anxiety around my work is because I'm the sole provider for myself and my daughter. And that's, I'm carrying that. And so maybe that's something I need to work through from a grief perspective of just like, yes, it could still happen, I guess, but so that's a question I have. And then the other is that Helen wanted me to work through this from a inherited grief, an inherited situation. So from my dad's side of the family. So I'm just curious about talking.
So that would be a hypnosis session. So that's the great thing about this program. You get one every month. And so we would definitely want to address the inherited grief, because we do a lot of that kind of thing in hypnotherapy. The loss of dreams or expectations is like totally a reason to have grief. And so realizing you had this plan and this dream of having a family and being married and having like a dad and a mom, and that not happening can cause grief, right? So that's a really beautiful one to look at. And so for example, around that, what you would do, because I don't want you to miss this part, is you create a graph. And so you're going to just make a graph from the timeline of when you were little and you started dreaming about having a family, right? And you would play dolls, and that's like a high point. And you like imagined you were the girl doll and he was the boy doll, and you guys had like a little baby, and it was so happy. And then you had a sad thing happen. And so you draw a line down on the graph and you say, this is like when a boy hit me on the playground or whatever. And then this was my first love, or this was a boy I had a crush on, and I like imagined that I had his last name. And then down is like I was rejected for the first time or whatever. And so all of these kind of highs and lows, you're just going to make a graph this week. And like maybe, deciding to have a baby on your own is a high, or maybe it was a low, like whatever it is, it's your process. So the whole point of this grief recovery process is grief is uncommunicated emotion. So if you think of someone dying suddenly, that's a lot of uncommunicated emotion. If you think of someone dying over several years, that's less grief, right? Because it's less uncommunicated emotion. So that's the idea, is like there's uncommunicated emotion with the person that maybe the partner that you're like, you were supposed to come and find me this time, man. Like you haven't found me. And I'm like, so whatever that letter is, it's to that. I would maybe write that letter to your partner and go like, hey, this has been really hard for me. This is what happened. This is what didn't happen. When I was little, this happened. And you write this letter that you're going to do from this graph to someone, and then we act as proxy. So you're going to have a partner that you share this letter to, and you keep reading it until that emotion, that uncommunicated emotion has been communicated. Okay, so this week, all we're doing is we're putting it onto a graph, and we're creating structure so that we can then put it into a letter and make sure that we get everything into it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I know, Laura, you have to hop off, but that's the main part. That's the home plate. And you can do it on page 35 of your workbook if you want to keep it all together. And then we'll be just busting through this and going into the letters the next week. So we're going to move pretty quickly through this, but definitely reach out. And I'm wondering, just with the 5 of you, what's the best way to create a group communication pattern? We can do it on WhatsApp. We could do it on like Facebook. We could do it on just a text. But what's best for you guys?
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp?
I prefer WhatsApp.
Same.
Okay. Okay, sweet. So I'll make that just so that if you guys have stuff you want to share, or if you want to ask a question or that kind of thing, we'll have that. And we can, I know, like I've done Facebook groups and that kind of thing, but I never get on those and it doesn't work for me either. So
I don't have that, but I'll download it.
okay, that's nice because we'll be your only channel. Okay,
I have a Telegram, but
I think
no.
you can you 2x voices on WhatsApp? That's like my favorite part of like Voxer and stuff. Do all of you have Voxer?
Don't even know what it is.
Marco Polo.
Marco
No.
Polo, but then people don't have the pass, and then we have to look. So I'll do the WhatsApp, and you're
Okay.
gonna have to get a WhatsApp account, Kelsey, which is actually moving you up in the world into one more communication method. Like all of us need that. Like, oh my head.
Totally fine. You guys are worth it.
Okay, well, good.
Now, Telegram's a good one too, if you wanted to do that one.
Oh, I don't have that one. So, oh, I've got a call. Okay. So are you guys all good? Is the home play clear? I'll email it to you with the.
Right.
I just really quickly, I just have so many like things that I want to work. How do you choose your number one?
The one that's
One that's the most debilitating. That
yeah.
would make the needle move 80%. The other ones are 20%ers, I would say. What do you think, Catalina?
I think the one that you don't want to do. The thing that you don't want to do is the one that you should do.
One more quick question. Can
Yeah.
I do it on like the death of somebody that hasn't happened yet? Like for instance, my like 82-year-old dad who's gonna die someday, and I'm terrified about that.
Sure.
Is that weird?
Yeah, like I feel like I'm doing one around what like I'm doing it so that I can move forward with less fear.
Mm.
So mine is to like release more of the grief around the loss of the family unit that I had dreamed of. Like, so it still is like so sad to me that I just don't have a mother and father in the house, and that like, and all of the sorrows and stuff that come from that, of like being the primary caregiver and doing all those things, that's all stress around it. But I almost feel like that grief holds me back from moving forward, right? Into a relationship that would look different than what I originally wanted so badly.
Mm.
I would say trust that wherever you start is going to get you where you need to go. So even, Amanda, if you start with that, the future, that, you know, the dream that you have for the future, you don't think is going to be realized, or it's going to end abruptly, start there, because predictably it has something else. It will lead you somewhere else where you need to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll share because I didn't really have a specific, but with talking with Catalina, holy crap, something just came and I had no idea And as I was talking with her, it was like, oh, but it's attached to this. Oh, and it's attached to that. So just be open.
Okay.
Yeah, as you start getting into it, like in the call, I'm like, in 10 minutes, figure out what you're going to spend, you know? But as you start looking at it, you're going to start realizing that there's one that's really ready to be released. And reach out if you have any, like, I'm thinking this, but here's what, yeah. And get the book.
Get the
Yeah,
book.
she hasn't. You're so awesome. Kelsey, did you have something?
No.
Okay. I love you
Maybe
guys
we
so
should
much.
have a side note of just working through the book, a side class.
Totally.
Oh man, it's big enough. The
It's
work.
so good. I know. And like I'm summarizing it just to kind of move us through, but it's definitely like I 100% recommend getting the book, reading through it, especially as you do this. Just I've read through it like at least 3 or 4 times, but it's always something new pops out when I read it. So
Thank you.
As long as you're reading, there'll be something new.
I know it's like crazy.
And what I told Jolene kept saying, well, do you think that's related to grief? If that's your question, the answer is yes. If
Yeah.
that's keep asking that question, well, is that related to grief? Then the answer is yes.
Yeah, because there's this energy, the vibration of it is confusion and heaviness, right? So if you're confused about something, it's probably grief. Like it, right? That's kind of a litmus test.
Yep.
That's really good. It's a really good
Question doesn't, in my experience, that question doesn't come up. So it's like the question comes up and you're going like, oh, is that grief? Well, that can't be grief. Then it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like a really murky, confusing vibration, right? So you start looking at it and it's like, I can't see anything. That's grief. Like if you start looking at something, it's like, I don't understand. It's grief.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really good. Okay, ladies. Love you so much. That's a wrap.
Love you.
Bye.